Grand risings, grand risings. Me and Jontel haven't done this in a while, man.
Yeah.
Introduce yourself, Jontel. So people, because we on Rumble, we on a, some
Oh,
people that
word.
might not know.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you.
All right, bet. Yeah, I mean, I'm John Tell Toland. I run the Leon Block Network, which you're listening from. Glad to be back with you, man. It has been a minute since we've been on the waves together. Running our own shows. I run the Colonizer's Coffin, which you can catch on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook. And I talk about a number of topics ranging from world issues to conspiracy theories to the shadow government and even pop culture issues and more. So if you want to talk about salacious stuff, if you got something you want to talk about and you want to come on and chat with me, you're welcome to. It's that kind of situation. So yeah, anyway, appreciate you, Chaz. It's been a minute, and I'm sure there's a bunch of different topics that we could touch on today. Um,
Oh,
and
we definitely gonna talk about a bunch because there's so much going on, and we have different perspectives. You know what I'm saying? We have different
right,
outlooks.
right.
You know what I'm saying, on things that are going on in America right now. And the first story that I want to jump into is Gaza. I actually not even so much about Gaza, but well, it is because Gaza is under attack. It's under a genocide, um, and I know you are more informed about more worldly issues because I've learned a lot from you when it comes to certain conflicts, and then even had to do a little research um, as to why certain conflicts are going on and why there's such a narrative
Mm-hmm.
uh, around those. And I see that just like we were talking about before we came on here was about what's going on at Columbia University.
Right.
Uh, and but a lot of things that I didn't know that there was a similar event, the same thing that they're doing now was done in 1968.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but before we get
And we don't
into
learn.
right, before we get into the history, I want you to educate the people um, on what's going on because I know that occupations and protests um, have gone on for years about certain things, and um, right now we're asking for a ceasefire. We're asking for Biden to put his big boy shorts on. We're asking for our Congress to stop funding a genocide. You know what I'm saying? Because we literally have people here at home that we're forgetting about and not taking care of while we're
Mm-hmm.
giving billions to we don't even know what we're funding right now.
Well, we're funding Israel and we're funding a genocide. We're funding Ukraine. Uh, we are funding the imperialist machine. And that's what really is what this comes down to is the empire's interest in keeping this machine churning. And what you see happening around the world and the lack of attention that we're getting. I'm hearing something about universal health care for all. Israel is getting universal health care. Where's our health care? And I'm not sure if this is true, so I want to find that source. But uh, if anyone knows if that's true or not, please inform me and let me know because I would like to know if that really is true. But the point here is, on my show, The Colonizer's Coffin, we get into the issues going on around the world that can be traced back to America and the conflicts that arise because of it. People talk about the symptoms, people talk about the aftermath, or they'll talk about immigration, but they don't talk about the root causes of it. The root cause is us. The root cause is us literally living, existing, and breathing. Uh, just by living, existing, and breathing in America, your tax-paying dollars are killing people in other countries. And Gaza is not the first and only place. It's been happening. We could trace it back to the invention of all these different agencies within America, all the different shadow governments that exist. It's not just about our politicians. It's not just about the government. It's about private entities and interests that essentially actually pull the strings. Why is it that it took one person behind the curtain to actually inform the world that we killed over 1 million people in the war on terror? We would have never known the atrocities that our own people committed over there in the name of the war on terror when this whole thing was made up to begin with. And so we're seeing the same thing play out with Palestine, except it's playing out right before our eyes. At the time of the war on the Middle East, prior to about 20 years ago, at this point, there wasn't surveillance and social media to be able to inform people all across the world of what those people were going through, but they went through the same kind of stuff, except we were on the ground doing it. And it was private mercenaries committing atrocious crimes. We're now witnessing it happen in real time. And so you've got campuses across the nation, really, and actions happening all around the world, including Israel, mind you. There are Jewish people in Israel that are uh, demanding a ceasefire and demanding that yet Netanyahu be removed from his seat and that the everything going on cease. So you've got people all around the world standing up for Palestinians and seeing that what is going on is clearly a genocide. It's clearly a genocide. Um, and so, yes, what happened in the 60s is currently happening today at Columbia University. Students being removed from occupying their campus. They pay tuition to be able to have a right to free speech and protest what they believe in. Isn't those some of the pillars and foundations of having a college life style, is to stand up for the things that you believe in? We would think so, especially given that this is supposedly America and the land of the free, right? But history has also shown us that if you are standing on the side of the people, standing for the people that have been oppressed, that you are likely going to face some kind of pushback. And that is what we're witnessing right now. No different than any other time in history, but that means that we have to do something different. I also think, one last thing, that the time and age that we're in, with the tools that we have a chance to really change how we respond to things for once, right? We've got these tools at our hands, and we should use these tools to unite, to inform, and to take action, most of all. So, free Palestine. If you want any more information on what exactly is going down, check out my page, The Colonizer's Coffin. We have a page on Facebook. We're on YouTube under the Leon Block channel. And we also are on Twitter and Twitch. Definitely give us a ring if you've got any information or you want to share your piece, and talk about these colonizers, the system, and how we bring it down. So yeah, I'm sure there are stories that we can get into, and get into this situation with Colombia a little more. Do you have any kind of I shared a lot of stuff on Twitter just recently,
I do
of
have some
different
video
actions we have.
of today, um, of because it is trending. Columbia University is
Yeah,
trending. But here is some video from the last couple days from that is um, Scent Defender, open source intelligent monitor focused on Europe and conflicts across the world. Um, this is their page. This is the video.
I do want to say quick, uh, is that there is a we talk about, why is TikTok under siege and why is it going to get banned, and why are they moving so hard to get it banned when we can't even get, a whole healthcare for all pushed through, and different
Right, right.
bills and stuff passed that we really do need to get passed, but they're pushing for TikTok so quickly. Think about why. What it really comes down to is the youth being informed of the truth, and everyone spreading news via social media. Think about it, how we are here right now spreading information. They don't like that, they don't want that, and they see that as the biggest threat of all to them, and they've actually spoken about it, they've openly said it. And if you want more information, I shared it to our playlist on the Leon Block titled Content for Web Shows Here. There's a video. Shout out to Second Thought and First Thought for coming up with this content. They get into detail as to why TikTok is an issue. It's because the youth are spreading information, the truth about what's actually going down in Palestine, and why it's so important that we stand up for our rights too, but also for the rights of Palestinians, because we are directly contributing to it. Not only that, we're contributing to our own downfall if we do not stand up to what's going on. We're taking away our own rights, or we're watching our rights being taken away from us. We have the right to freedom of speech. So TikTok must exist. It is not a China or Chinese issue. It is a censorship issue amongst generations. They do not want youth being informed of the truth and us having the power. They don't want us to have the future that we deserve. And they've literally outright said this, and you can check that this is not a political issue. It is not a left and right issue. It is a generational issue. Think about how older generations were propagandized through TV, through magazines. That doesn't
See,
affect us anymore.
and that's the stuff that they don't want to talk about, man.
Right.
And that's what frustrates me is
Oh, well, it's
because
starting to be talked about now.
oh right, right. No, I'm just saying of like, oh, I do agree that there, conversations are being had, you know, but I still see the people that are making change, that
Yeah.
are making laws, that are voting, because that's where see, that's the one thing that I think people fail to realize is that we do have a voice. And it's not just of going out and protesting
Right.
and do, you know what I'm saying? It's about getting involved. It's about understanding how politics works, understanding how civics works, understanding how the system is allowed to do it judicially,
You know,
legislatively, executively.
you
You
know
know,
what I believe is taking both of everything that you said and combining it. So, initially going to protest, that gets you interested, right? But
right?
discipline is important. So, educating yourself through all the means of which you just expressed, and then taking that and forming an action is what we need. Is people uniting together and having a communicated uh disciplined action here and there. And that is what we're starting to see with things like this at Columbia, with them blocking ships from taking off from ports, chaining themselves to different things,
Shutting down
clogging up
airports,
highways. What's that?
shutting down airports.
Exactly. And strategic places.
Right,
There are certain factories that we were talking about the situation in Scranton the other day with a weapons factory that makes weapons that we know are being used in Israel right now to bomb and attack Palestinians or defend Israel against Iran and certain other countries, and it's being made right here in the USA. So when these children are getting hit with white phosphorus gas, it's coming from Pennsylvania.
right.
And that warehouse mysteriously got set on fire the other day. Uh, and I'm not saying violence. I don't condone violence, but I also condone self-defense and proactive action against our country and the atrocities that we can commit, uh,
Well,
because
because
our
let me ask
names are
you a
attached to
question,
it.
right?
Yeah,
You know, because you say you know, people will take that what you just said and be like, oh, they want people to burn stuff down, and that.
right.
That's not what we're saying, right? But what we are
Correct.
saying, and let me say this because these are my words. Um, the only way you ever get change, and history has shown us how to get change, is a
Is
revolution.
violence. Right.
And see, I want to take it a step further because it's not even just about violence, right? It's about self protection, self defense, because we come
That
out
part.
here to be peaceful. This is
I
about
think our
peaceful disruption
I think our society has been programmed into being docile, so much so that resistance is seen as
as
just
violent. Right,
not even violence, because violence justified is resistance, right?
right.
But
No, I'm saying though is that
just seeing it as outright disgust or abhorrent behavior, when self-defense is not necessarily abhorrent when you understand all of the context and circumstances given doing so, right? Because people are so quick to say, what about what Hamas is doing, without understanding the context of why Hamas exists in the first place. Why did
right,
the civil rights movement exist in the first place? Why did the Black Panther and the Black Panther movement and party exist in the first place as a right of self-defense? Why was Martin Luther King why did Martin Luther King speak up and stand up and exist in the first place? Because Black
right.
people were mistreated.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
so this is the equivalent. It's the same thing, but the current environment makes it harder for people to grasp that simple concept that it's the same thing,
Right.
a different year.
Yeah. And that's what, because people will be like, well, there's all these nonprofits. See,
Right.
that's the problem because the movements that actually did a dent in our system, the government didn't control. And when the government couldn't control them, you know what they did? They they labeled them terrorist groups,
Yep.
or they were Marxist, or they were militant. At the end of the day, all they were fighting for was desegregation for Black Americans.
And you know what, if you follow the trails, you'll see that there's a pattern of how they villainize anyone that goes against the whole narrative and disrupts the
Right,
system. It doesn't matter if it's entertainment, or if it's the ordinary citizen, or if it's a movement, political party, leaders. It doesn't matter who it is. And if they can't villainize you, uh and if they can buy you out, they will buy you out and make you work for them,
right.
whether
And
you
and that's
know it
the
or
one
not.
what people don't even understand is you have to look what you have to do to be a nonprofit, right? And that's why the Black Panthers, why Malcolm, and why so many other great revolutionaries never fed into the system because they knew once the system had a control over you, right? You can't do the things that you want to do. And I'm going to tell you this right now. You ask any nonprofit if they can really fight for the liberation of Black people, if they can really fight for the liberation movements that
Right.
they're fighting for.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if it doesn't make dollars, it doesn't make
It don't
sense
make
to
sense. Yep.
And that's what we got to see. It's the same thing with these conversations that I'm seeing on Twitter about church. Should church be a place where we have political conversations? And I'm going to say yes, to a degree, because for the simple fact of there's a church of every religion, damn near on every community in America, right? They should be the biggest backbones of our communities, the backbone. But
I
because we got,
agree with you. Uh, let's talk about culture for a second because
yep,
one example, and I'm going to bring this up as a parallel to the Black experience because we're both people of color here.
yep,
I think that what we saw with the uncommitted wave happening in Michigan with the Arab communities, plural communities, because not
yep,
all Arabs are the same. They are not a monolith. However, they are
right,
definitely in agreement on the fact that they will not be a pawn in the system's game. And if there's something that Black folk can take away from looking at our brethren over there and seeing how they stood together and said, we will not be used when our family are being slaughtered, we need to take consideration and consider that neither one of these parties see us as anything that they can necessarily use except for a number of a vote. And to be honest, they don't even care about our vote when they have
right,
so many other demographics that they can utilize and use and chew out and spew the same way that they did us. And at this point, they frankly, they don't need us. They want everyone else around us, which further brings Black people down to the bottom of the barrel, if you ask me. So going back to what happened with the uncommitted vote, that did make a dent.
I
It made
see. They,
waves.
you know what? Thank
It
you,
hit
because
the
I was just.
news.
What's crazy is while you were just sitting there talking about that, I found a video that from Michigan that why they started the uncommitted.
Voters last night sent a clear message to President Biden that he needs to call for an immediate permanent ceasefire.
It was a major political test for Biden, who's faced growing pressure to call for a permanent ceasefire in Gaza.
And it marks the first time Biden will lose delegates in his re-election bid. The group spent the past 3 weeks phone banking and canvassing to encourage voters to cast an uncommitted ballot.
And they brought in groups from all across the country to help support the effort.
There's a lot of things that, had me hesitant to vote for him again this November, but definitely this has kind of sealed it that, if he doesn't change his ways, I most likely won't. I won't vote for him.
But what's next for the group?
On Wednesday, Listen to Michigan told reporters they plan to work with supporters in Minnesota and Washington State.
But they're willing to work with everyone in their coalition to send Biden a message.
Oh, whoops. Yeah, because they definitely did come to Minnesota. And it was actually a big, because people were making fun of it. And my thing of it is, and I agree, right? A lot of people voted uncommitted
Mm-hmm.
in the primary.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to November, are people still going to vote Genocide Joe because it's still the lesser of, they feel that that is still the lesser of two evils.
Right. I want people to remember that. Let me start here, right? So why should the Palestinian genocide resonate with us and why should we care about it? It's not just simply because we are literally tacked onto it every day that we exist because our money that we work hard for goes to it. It's also the fact that our struggle as Americans and fighting against the things that we deserve as people and fighting tooth and nail to have the things that we deserve as people, basic rights like shelter, clean water, free water, having rights like women's health care, and Black people not being killed by police or facing discrimination, Asians and Arabs not being discriminated against because of something that is happening across the world that Americans in our country don't understand, because we are being told things that are ill-informed or not true at all. I think that we have to see ourselves in the people that are fighting for their lives every day and being starved and have nowhere to go and nowhere to escape to. They're literally being killed off one by one, thrown in mass graves with their hands bound behind their bodies. We're witnessing the Holocaust all over again. If you have compassion, you should care. But beyond that, in the struggle as a Black person, the things that we have gone through, any major civil rights so-called leader in Black American history has seen the parallels between our struggle and the struggles that Palestinians go through. Mind you, there are Black Palestinians that are going through a lot of discrimination from all sides. So if we're being discriminated here as Black Americans, if we see ourselves and every other people that are facing discrimination too, when push comes to shove, we should all be there for one another so that we can combat this system, because really it's not about race. It's about class. It's about the people at the top that are pinning everyone else against each other to get what they want. And at the end of the day, we've all got something that we can gripe about. I think that's one thing that we could take away, is that we've all got something that we can gripe about. When it comes down to it, to the nitty gritty, I think every last American can agree on 5 basic things, and you can pick. We all deserve shelter. We all deserve clean water. We all deserve to make a respectable living for ourselves. We all want to work. We all want health care and be able to go to the doctor and be able to know that we all can deserve to, live a long, full, healthy life. Those are 5 things that we can all agree on as Americans. So why can't we start there and expand on it? They don't want us to. They want to keep this never-ending battle and keep us in fear of the next person taking away the little things that we actually really don't even have. So talking about the issue that's on the screen, I was just informed on this today. And it plays into the very thing that I'm speaking on, because while we're sitting here having to fight all these different battles around us, they're still taking our rights away quietly. And we don't have, they're taking away our perceived abilities to be able to talk amongst ourselves about even these kind of issues on a scale that actually can do something. Because yes, there are people that are definitely aware of this and speaking about it. Apparently this has been going on for some time, and I didn't know. I wonder how many other people do not know that this is about to happen. And so many people will be like, oh, well, they deserve it. They shouldn't be in that situation anyway. And guess what? It can turn around and happen to you tomorrow. Most Americans are living paycheck to paycheck and don't even have enough emergency funds to take care of an emergency were it to happen. So most Americans are one step away from being in a tent on the street as well. So before you pass judgment, this is happening to so many Americans. It's throwing whole economies off in small town America. This is something that has nothing to do with race,
Bro, it ain't even
or
that,
even class, or even class at this point. It's an
I'm going to show
American
you the
disease.
shit that our courts do. So the Supreme Court came back last week, and in 3 states that made it literally illegal to protest in large numbers.
Wow.
And that was Louisiana,
Wow.
Texas. It was Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi.
Wow. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Mississippi, Louisiana makes sense.
And it's crazy because they literally make it. What I don't understand, right, is why people don't come out And especially in these states, Texas, Louisiana, especially Louisiana, because Jeff Landry, their governor down there, is so bogus as shit. He's literally trying to silence people to a big degree and making the whole a social media thing, doing um, all different types of things. And then it's like people talk about vote Republican, and it's like, wait, do you not understand of how? See, for me, it's not even about politics. It's about
it's not about party
it's
because
it's about your policies.
it's
That's
not even
what
about the policies. It's
it
about the
has.
shadow
Okay,
government. It's about the shadow government, the 1% that is pushing its agenda for authoritarianism. That's
okay.
what we're
Here's my
moving
thing of it
fast
is
to.
though. This is my thing of it is, and this is why I say policy, right?
Oh yeah,
Because of the simple fact of we have to deal with the system that we have at hand.
right.
Where it's not, you know what I'm saying? So until we can change the system the way that we want to see it, we have to get people in position to be able to do that.
Right.
And the only way we're going to be able to do that is if we focus on people that are focused on policies and not party affiliation, because both parties are the same. They just have
Yep.
different agendas on how to get there.
Yep.
You know what I'm so that's all I'm saying. I agree with everything you're saying, bro. But
I
it's
agree with everything you're saying.
until we get into that position of it's like, okay, prime example about reparations, right? Everybody talks about reparations, but the people that they put in front of us aren't even behind reparations. So how are we supposed to get reparations if we're not even electing or voting for the people that are for it?
I feel personally, because I'm 1,000% for reparations and I want it. However,
Right.
I would rather lay the foundation and groundwork for us to be able to be set up to get that more easily. If we're changing public perception, if we're moving policy, if we're getting all the pillars out the way that are preventing us from getting that to happen on a large scale. Because yes, we are well aware that there are certain municipalities in America that have given out reparations to communities. We know that there are certain municipalities that have even done the universal health, the universal income for municipalities,
Right.
and we see the studies and it is working. But that has nothing to do with large scale, and it's not helping us at a large scale, right? Most people aren't even aware of this and think it's some kind of fairy tale. So how can we move towards that? I think you're so right about many things. The first thing would be the policy, like you're saying, because if we're not changing public perception through education, through information, how are people going to be aware of what can even need to be changed? And forming a rounded opinion of understanding how anything works to be able to get anything done. And I think that's a major roadblock for us as well. Many of us are not informed on many things, so therefore we just don't bother at all because we don't understand how anything works, and we think that it has nothing to do with us when it has everything to do with us altogether.
So I want to show you this, right? Because on May 17th to May 20th is a national reparations convention, right? The pro-black convention of the year. But here's my thing of it is, right? So you have a national reparations convention, and most of the panelists wouldn't even qualify for reparations since their families migrated after the end of chattel slavery, right? Now I've done my homework. This lady right here, Melina Abdullah, not a black American, right? Her dad is from a whole nother country, migrated.
So I have an answer. I have an answer to this.
Yep.
Okay. So all black people across the diaspora that are of African descent that were moved around during the transatlantic slave trade, without a doubt, unequivocally deserve reparations. However, unfortunately, it is up to each individual nation to award that to the descendants of which those slaves resided in. You follow me?
Mhm.
So, If you were in Puerto Rico and you are a black descendant of slave and you can prove that your family was a descendant of slavery and suffered the atrocities from the American transatlantic slave trade, and your family was enslaved, right? You deserve reparations from America because Puerto Rico is a part of America. If you happen to be a descendant of Jamaica and the same thing happened to you, Britain deserves Britain owes you some money. If you now if you are a descendant of, Mexico and you are a black slave, you deserve some coins. If you get this, if you are from Haiti, that's a tough one, right? But otherwise, let's get back to America. I don't think it's tough. I think it's clear cut and dry. If you are a descendant of an American slave, of American enslavement due to the transatlantic slave trade, you deserve reparations. If you are not, if you are from a different nation, that nation owes you money, not America. Clear cut and dry. But though I think that there are some complications due to historical records and lack thereof during certain time periods that certain people may not be able to prove. And that's where my attention, I think, should be. I think that we should make a concerted effort to find out more information on Americans, Black Americans that are descendants. And if you can prove that, your descendants are from the Bahamas or from Jamaica or from Turks and Caicos, Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago, any of those countries, that's a conversation I think you should take up with them. And maybe since you're here in America now, you can help us get our reparations as descendants of Black American slaves so that Americans can help push for smaller countries to award the descendants of slaves in those countries their rights and their reparations as well. I think that makes very solid and sound sense, given that, we're supposed to be the superpower that we are and we make such precedents. What happens in America trickles to other places. I think that that would be the efficient way to go about it, because we all deserve those reparations. However, unfortunately, given the circumstances and to make things easier and more clear cut and dry, I don't think it's fair for someone that is from Jamaica to immigrate to the United States and think that the United States owes them reparations. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
The
And
United
that's
States
the whole
owes.
thing of it is of like most of the people that are at the head of this reparations movement wouldn't even qualify.
Put it this way. It's like saying that Brazil owes Native Americans. It's like saying that Brazil owes the Navajo reparations just because someone of the Navajo nation moved to Brazil.
Right.
Did indigenous Brazilians suffer and get owed reparations? Yes. Did Native Americans, indigenous people of America get owed reparations, and did some of them receive it? Yes. But just because it's a shared experience doesn't mean that you can move to another country and think that you get owed reparations. So someone of Caribbean descent expecting to get reparations in America, it should not fly. Just the same as what I just expressed.
Right.
Does that answer it good, like clearly?
Yeah. Man, I don't have a problem with your explanation if that's what you're asking.
Yeah. Nah, because that's something that I think a lot of people try to go back and forth on, thinking that it's such a difficult debate, and I don't really think it is.
To me, it's not a difficult debate. I think it's more of people, they literally are. I think it's more of if we agree to this, then it has nothing to do with y'all. This is at a point in time where none of us were alive, right?
Right.
But how about correcting the wrongs done in history to people's families that are now suffering, and they're suffering because, first of all, of certain laws, Reconstruction, Jim Crow, being undereducated, and being taken advantage of, from being executed wrongfully from being imprisoned, from being killed at the hands of the police. We have numerous, I'll say this, millions of stories, and probably even billions uh, of trauma. And that's why, for me, the more that I get to go back and look at history, I see the things that went wrong because we're literally doing the same things that our ancestors were doing.
Yep.
And some of these ancestors are still alive. I think that went over a lot of people's heads.
We really are not far removed from major changes and shakeups in American culture and society. And I think that people think it's so far removed that that big type of major revolution and change couldn't happen anytime in our lives, when every life actually has some major revolution happen during it.
Right. And it's crazy because you still have people talking about, oh, we've been enslaved 400. No, I'm sorry, it's 500 years now.
Yep.
Let's get to reality. Let's stop saying 400 because I'm tired of hearing that, because it's actually 5 now, and maybe even longer than that.
Right.
And that's what just frustrates me. It's like, for me, it's not even about like looking at these people and be like, oh, you're guilty, right? Of having slaves in your family. For me, it's about these corporations that profited and had blossomed into billion-dollar companies, and yet the people that made that company were never what's the word I'm looking for when you get paid? Compensated. All right.
I think I'm kind of losing what I was getting ready to say, but I think for me it's more about the upper echelons and us understanding how things recycle, and we need to take note of that. There's a comment here. Oh yeah, you just put it up. I'm about 20 minutes behind your live where you're talking about TikTok and my chakras keep vibrating. We are uniting and they're not happy about it. And I couldn't agree with that more. And so that is something we need to keep our gas on, especially is making sure that we're taking note of. We can all agree that misinformation is rampant, right? That's something that no matter what political party you are in, no matter what color you are, what creed you are, what class you claim to be from, we can see the crumbling of this society. Exactly. So why don't we start with that conversation and expand out? There was something that you had touched on that I was really going to dive into, and I forget it. I'm a little salty about that, but it's all good.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
But it did have to do with policy and reparations. You know, Japanese folks here in America, certain indigenous people were awarded reparations. I don't understand what is so hard to grasp that, Black people went through the same terrors and are still going through the same terrors. Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I think it's incredibly insensitive to say, there's no more slavery, or we're past that. We're so much better than that. Slavery doesn't exist, and we're good. No, we're not. It's been proven just a few years ago after Gaddafi's fall that there was a slave market, and still is a slave market, with sub-Saharan blacks being auctioned off. It's still proven, and you can look it up, that slavery existed in America well into the 20th century, the 1900s. It is well proven that trafficking exists. And what is trafficking if not modern day slavery? There it's been proven that there have been countries in the world that didn't legally abolish slavery until the 80s and 90s and 2000s. And if you sit there and say that slavery doesn't exist, or you act as though we've moved past that in our society as America, what about all the other societies in the world? If you're so high and mighty and you think we're such a great society and we influence the rest of the world, we set the precedent, we should be fighting for liberation for all people if you're looking at it through that lens. But I think that we're still just as restricted in freedoms as any other place. It's a matter of perspective. And if you want to turn a blind eye to other people and their lack of freedoms, I wonder how many lack of freedoms here are you turning a blind eye to as well. And so I really want people to be mindful and critical of how they view something, and to open up the scope of how you're viewing something, not just within America, but within humanity in general. Because something that is going on somewhere else could be bound to still happen here, or very well may be happening here, just in not your vicinity or with your knowledge. Right. So I think the bigger thing that I want to remind people of on that topic is, like, reparations are deserved and slavery still exists. It's a matter of, what do you consider slavery?
I agree with that, but I definitely agree with that, because a lot of it could be mental, a lot of it could be shit. Honestly, I feel like we're slaves in the labor force. I feel like we're slaves in the housing market. I feel like we're slaves in wealth, because when it comes to being a Black American, we're at the
13th
bottom of
Amendment.
everything. Right.
13th Amendment, your
Bottom of everything.
slavery is abolished in America unless you are a servant of the US government under, federal law, having to work for America because you are a prisoner. If you are locked up federally, they can make you work for slave wages. And under their pretenses, it is modern day slavery. It's a new incarnation of slavery, but it's still slavery, no matter how you want to call it.
Or how you want to frame it.
Yeah.
Because when you got people that are wrongfully convicted sitting behind bars, and innocence isn't enough to overturn their convictions, what other do you call it than slavery?
Right. And, you mentioned the mental aspect. We may have the ability to travel around the world. However, in America, in the system and the government banks on the fact that we will export their biggest commodity, which is capitalism and consuming, and the American mind frame, the typical American mind frame. And we inject that all around the world. We don't really think much of it. And we come back home. We don't escape, most of us. They don't have to lock us in. We isolate ourselves automatically from the propaganda that they spew at us. Gazans and the poorest of people from the West Bank don't have the ability to leave, and their mind isn't shackled. I don't know which is worse. Us under the mental slavery most of all, or them not being able to even leave and being picked off one by one. Do we pick our battles, or do we fight for liberation in general for all? I want listeners, to think about that. But also, if you have any comments and thoughts as well, I really want to know your thoughts on this in general. In how do you view liberation? How do you view freedoms? Because I don't think that we should always take them and view them just personally, because that's not getting us anywhere with parties. everyone wants what they want for themselves, not realizing that we all essentially want the same, right?
Right.
I'm just
Man, these
waiting to see if
motherfuckers.
somebody comments.
Huh? What?
So I'm waiting to see if somebody comments.
Oh yeah, no, I was over here reading Plies. He said no black man in America could ever be on trial in a courtroom 6 months before an election and ever be president of the United States of America, ever, no matter what the reason was. It could never happen.
Yep.
I agree with that. That's what's crazy. And I know that, and that's the whole thing of it is of like what people can really see of by the color of somebody's skin if they how they feel about them.
Yeah.
And then to say, oh, I'm not a racist. And what the fuck are you? If you're not a racist, what are you? Fuck, am I that rankism, colorism?
I was gonna say even the
Ageism?
top, right?
So many other isms.
Right. Exactly.
And maybe
There's
you just
so
got
many isms.
necrophobia.
These isms are ills. But how can you survive life if you're not aware of what all the ills are? So a lot of people like to dismiss these isms and words matter and they don't matter. But you need to be mindful of them if you don't want to mind them. Does that make sense? You gotta know the isms, but fuck them isms. If you feel me.
Oh, you definitely got to know them. Don't just know racism. That's what everybody just seems to know. That's what everybody just seems to care about so much is racism because people get in an uproar. Oh, they said nigger. I could care less about what somebody feels about me. How about can we change the system so that I have an equal opportunity to get a loan, a business loan, or a housing loan? You know what I'm saying? Like, shit. Bless up, bless up.
What's up, brother?
You know what I'm saying?
That reminds me of a video that I saw that went viral of this white mom and her son. He had to have been like between 10 and 14. And it was at a park and there was a couple black kids. I guess the white kid was picking on the black kids. They fought back and he went and got his mom. So the mom came, she called them the N-word. The son did as well, and the black kids were just like, you can't say that. You can't say that. And he's like, yes, I can, because he said some dumb excuse, whatever. He's like, yes, I can, because nigger just means an ignorant person and you're being ignorant, but there was no justification for them being ignorant, however. So he was the one being ignorant, if anything. But I think that my point here of pointing this out is lack of education on both parties, because all the kids had as far as a rebuttal, the black kids, was you can't say that. Well, why do you think that these two white people cannot say the hard R? Have you been educated on why that is politically incorrect at the least? And it goes back to like you're speaking about, we need to know these words, the implications of them, and why. Ultimately, whether we want to or not, if we're to get anywhere, So, y'all, I'm sure we got a number of topics that we could touch on and discuss what you over there looking for.
I'm not looking for anything in general. I was just looking at to see what was coming up on my Twitter timeline. So I got a video that is out of NYU University.
Resistance is justified when people are occupied.
The people face genocide.
The people face genocide.
We're opposing genocide.
We're opposing.
Violence here. More than 40,000 dead.
More than 40,000 dead. And people are occupied.
We will not stop. We will not rest. Shut down NYU Tel Aviv.
Shut down NYU Tel Aviv.
Shut down NYU Tel Aviv.
More than 40,000 dead.
NYU, you're painted red.
NYU, you're painted red.
When people face genocide.
And people face genocide.
So you see them out in NYU doing the same exact thing that they're doing in Columbia University, which I think is great. I think that shows solidarity, because solidarity, not charity. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate what they're doing. I will say this: everybody might not agree with it. You know, that's for me. It's putting spotlight on things that need to be spotlighted, right? And it's also opening up the doors for other movements to take advantage of what's going on. Right?
Yep.
Because here's the thing of it is, what I mean by that and what I say about solidarity, not charity, right? Because if we combat this together, if we unite and fight this together, because strength is in numbers, we all have the same beef with our government right now. We all have the same beef, right? So why don't we come together and be a force instead of being the weak, divided, deflected groups we are?
Exactly.
Because we would rather see, that's the whole problem I don't get. We're supposed to be fighting the system, but even I'll be honest, it seems to me I fight more the people that are out here, these organizations and these so-called activists, whatever they want to call themselves, then I'm actually fighting the system.
Right, but brother, that's not your fault. That's the system's fault.
No, I know that. I know that. You know what I'm saying? But it pisses me off because it's like they sit there and say out of their same mouth that they're fighting the same fight, but their actions
Right.
don't back up those words. You
Facts.
know what I'm saying? That's what I guess I'm meaning to say. Because I do see
Yeah.
it as a, you know, uh, if you spend a lot of time on certain, organizations or, people be like, oh, you're hating, you're hating. So it's like you just got to move around and talk about different shit because at the end of the day, everything does come to light. Everything that's done in the dark will always come to the light. So, and that's what I just have faith in. You know what I'm saying? I have faith in God. That's who, my God's different than everybody else's God. That's why when people say, I'll pray for you, wait, pump the brakes, shorty. I don't know who you praying to. We might not pray to the same person. So thank you for the prayers, but I'll
Talk
pray
about
for
it.
myself. You know what I'm
Right,
saying?
right. Yeah.
Yeah. I already got enough bad luck. I don't need no more.
And while we're on topic of religion, let's be mindful of respectful of other people and their religions or lack thereof. I think that's supposed to be what makes America so special is the fact that we all do have different viewpoints and ideologies. And if there's one thing that I think that we should butt out of people's business on, it is that.
That what's crazy, and I agree. And here's the one thing of it is because I remember, you know, growing up that you didn't talk about certain things, right?
Right,
And
yeah.
religion, politics. And
Politics.
it's like, why? You know what I'm saying? Why? Because and now I understand why, because you want to stay away from arguments because
Right.
people are so um different in their ideologies and thoughts, even with inside their own families. You grow up with people, um, and then when certain things happen, and they'll maybe say something, they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I think that's a great idea." But like, wait, what? Do you understand what that means? You know what I'm saying? Like I
Right.
ask people that all the time. They're like, "Oh, this is great," and I'm like, "Okay, wait, pump the brakes. Do you know what this actually means?"
Right.
It's like the whole thing with the no knock bill here in Minnesota, right? It's with the exceptions. And people were like, "Oh yeah, this is great. We did it. We did it." What did we actually do? Because
That
all
part.
they have to do now is just a little extra step to get a no knock warrant. That's it.
It's the same. Think about when you download a new app and you just hit accept, accept, accept because you want to get to the
Right.
app. No one reads the fine print.
No. And we don't do that when it comes to politics either.
Right.
And that's the whole thing of it is because I have the hardest issue with people who call themselves allies, right? Because in my mind, I see if you're saying you're an ally, all you're telling me is all lies.
Ha.
You know what I'm
Good
saying?
one.
Because everything that they say, their actions speak different than their words. They don't talk this talk that they walk.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the whole thing for me is don't just talk that shit, walk it. Because if we were doing more than just talking, we wouldn't be having to do all these. If we were doing more walking than talking, we wouldn't be having these issues. We wouldn't be having to have every 6 months a town hall to talk about racism,
Right.
or every other month we got to talk about police brutality, or we have to talk about what's going on at CPS, Child Protection Services. Or we got to have this talk about education. No, why don't we just talk about the core fucking issue, right? Which is
That part.
systemic racism, which is institutional racism, instead of just blatantly talking about fucking racism. But they don't want to have the real deal Holyfield conversations, right? They want to keep on doing the entertainment shit, right? Because it makes money. Entertainment makes money. Drama makes money.
Yep.
Blood makes money. Violence makes money. They profit off that shit. You people don't think if they want to get rid of crack Because I'll tell you right now, the war on drugs really wasn't a war on drugs. It was a war on the poor people.
Yep.
Just like this fentanyl. You think they're really trying to get rid of fentanyl? Because I'll tell you right now, they're making it more accessible. They're making it easier to come across our borders. And I'm not, this is the thing. Oh man, you just racist. No, I'm just speaking to you real facts. And here's the one crazy thing of it is I had to have a conversation with somebody just yesterday. I had to reach out to somebody that I know that is still in that street life. And wheels and deals a little bit. And I had to ask them because, just 2 years ago, or just shit, even last year, the fentanyl pills were, $5-10. Now they out here selling these motherfuckers for $1 to $2.
Wow.
Right. And I had to ask him, I was like, yo, is that true? And he's like, yeah, because there's such a high production of them.
Wow.
Because you literally, bro, that's the one crazy part that these people don't want to talk about is this shit is made in a storage facility or in somebody's basement because you literally can buy the machine on Amazon.
Yo, in my head, I'm just like, who is doing this stuff? Like, who's consuming these drugs?
Our kids. Because
Lord
they
have
look like
mercy.
they're Adderall, or they look like Xanax bars, or they look like the Fred Flintstone vitamins.
Maybe
That's
doing
why.
this at home.
Yes, bro. And that's the one crazy thing what people don't want to talk about, right? This is what made me really, really wake. I ain't gonna say because I woke up before this, but like with my kids, man, because I literally just went through this with one of my children. You know what I'm saying? And what made me really be like, you got a choice in this, but you really don't got a choice in this. Is the fact that when she would use, she had Narcan on her. And I was like, yo, it's
Right.
that bad that you want to use and you got something right next to you that's going to bring you back to life.
Right.
No, dumbass, we gone. So I gave her a choice. You know what I'm saying? And she's sober now. She's just hit her 3 months, and I'm very proud of her. It's still a bumpy road, and I understand that. Right?
Yeah.
As a recovering addict myself, I understand that it's a marathon, it's a journey, right? Everybody's sobriety looks different.
Right.
Just like how everybody's success story looks different.
Looks different.
Success is measured in different levels. And everybody's success might look different.
And it is not linear, and it is never over.
Right. I totally just did not get what you said, but I liked it, so I agreed with it. See, but that's the one crazy thing. We sit here and will agree with things all because we like the sound of it.
Talk about it.
You know what I'm saying? I just wanted to I wanted to point that out because I will say this: there's a lot of shit that has been said in the last 4 years. No justice, no peace. No justice, no streets, right? Well, we ain't getting no justice, but it's definitely I don't see us taking over the streets. And when we do, we cave in, man. And that's are they right laws to make it us criminals? All for doing peaceful disruption because we're not committing crimes. We're not out killing people. We're out taking over roads in civil disobedience. Right. It's called peaceful disruption.
Yep.
And that's all, because I'll tell you right now, people be like, oh, we need to boycott this, we need to boycott that. I'm all fine and dandy with a boycott. But if we're not going to give people other options to be able to get their necessities through their way of life,
right,
we can't really do boycott because at the end of the day, we really don't really have a lot of shit out here that is for us, right?
And that's what I meant before about like having discipline and informed,
right?
Everyone communicates on how to effectively do something that actually makes a change. It tangibly moves and changes something. There's a point to it, and that's what actions are important for. But it has to be for something. For me to for people to really get behind it. And so I completely agree with you on that.
That's what I always just wanted people to look at because it's always funny. I be at these, just like Um, going to that, there was an event over the weekend in Rochester, and there's a nigger and was in cups on the bridge, right? Made out to spell nigger,
Wow.
and right. But my thing of it is they have this event, right? And it's again same shit we talk about every year. Um, that I've noticed, right, since I woke up in 2020. It seems like every 6 months or every time something happens, um, we have these town halls, um, we have these community discussions, and I always leave. Well, I used to leave feeling great, like, oh yeah, we're gonna get shit done, right? But then weeks would go by, then months,
Yep.
and then now we're getting to years, just and just a few years, and it's like we're still doing the same old shit. And I'm like, okay, yeah, okay, I get it. Y'all can feed the people. Y'all can feed the people. You know what I'm saying? I, you know what's crazy, Mike? I do believe that it was a high schooler because I'm going to tell you this, right? I have done a little bit more research into or looking into investigating or whatever that, right? So, from my understanding, prior to the N word going up, there was a previous event called the Red Art Cup, or so that's how they even got the cups originally. So I do believe that it was either somebody from the high school or it was somebody that knew that there was a art event that was going on out there and took advantage of it. So
Right.
right, and that's the one thing that's not being talked about when that's why I wanted to go to these events, right? And just like today, they're having another one for the high schoolers, for the kids, right, for the students to be able to come and speak. Um, and it's like I hope that that is something that is brought up because at the adult events, I haven't heard that yet, and that is something that I brought up to community leaders as well. So. Um, Yeah, it will be interesting, but I do believe I have the same thoughts as that it was a high schooler, and it was because what I'm hearing, even after George Floyd, um, they had a homecoming event where kids came in blackface and dressed up in KKK outfits.
What?
Bro, right. So it wouldn't surprise me that it would be a high schooler for the simple fact of we literally have shit that goes on in our schools every day, and instead of it being checked, it's swept under the rug. You know, I just did that when I did that little episode last week, talking about the event that happened, the town hall, and I showed video. That was one thing that was talked about. You know, it's the same shit. You know, right? It is, and that's what's crazy. That's what's crazy because you literally had in the Rochester event that just happened last Wednesday, you had two black Rochester public school employees that were forced out. One was fired and the other one was forced out because they were speaking up. So how
Of course, that's usually how it goes. Same
right?
kind of
How
stuff
can
happens
we
here.
expect right? So that's my whole thing of it is, and even like at that event, they had the police there and the sheriff. And it's like, how are we going to expect any kind of help from them when they don't even want to change what's going on inside their own departments? I always want people to think that, like, why do we keep on going to them for help when they can't even fix their backyards? You know what
I
I'm saying?
truly believe that the same ones that wore the hoods are the same ones that now wear the badges.
It always was that way. You know, that's what's the crazy thing of it is because I will say this as I've done more history research on my family, I've come to find out so much about my dad's mother and who was a Louisiana Creole. And I'm finding out that was a whole thing. You know what I'm saying? I didn't know that.
You didn't?
You know, nigga, I am finding out so much, and that's what's crazy. I'm loving this this journey, and I know I don't really talk about it much because I'm trying to do this in private, uh, to a degree, because I have found out so much about my family of being,
But I love talking about this stuff.
no, I know you do, but I wanted to get more of an
I hear you though.
understanding because,
Yeah.
like, I still don't understand. Like, there's this one lady that she was all over Twitter, because she's a Louisiana Creole and she's really light skinned, and they were
Right.
saying, well, she's not black. Um, but people, I think, didn't understand that we come in all shades.
Yep.
We come in all shades.
And if she's not black, then what's an albino?
Right.
All albinos are black people, y'all.
Right. Yep. Slave catchers. You were so right, Mike. You were definitely right. They were slave, because if you look at the slave catchers badge, way before we had actual police departments, right? Because we didn't even get police departments until what? It was after the 13th Amendment.
After the Civil War, right?
Right. Is when, right. That's what I'm saying, after the 13th Amendment. And that's when we literally had jails.
And the 13th Amendment relates directly to slavery. Do people see the correlation there?
They don't want to.
Right.
That and I don't understand how it's not so hard to see, right? Because if you look at how our government was set up, it's even, I seen this discussion the other day when it was talked about the first black slave owner. I think his name was Andrew Johnson or something. But he was an indentured slave, and it was that's totally different from chattel slavery, because indentured means that he could work off. He was doing it to pay off his debt.
Right.
So he was able to buy his freedom because he was an indentured slave. He owed a debt, right? So when he became free and got his land, there was another case that, and this has made a big change in how slavery was even looked at, because it was
talking about Dred Scott.
No, this even before this is even before Dred Scott, because our Supreme Court can't even use this. Where Dred Scott can, this is in colonial law. Yeah, this is Virginia colonial law. I had to do some research, because there was a black conservative that brought it up, because actually two of them, because Dom Lucre was just on Alex Jones' InfoWars podcast and brought up about slavery and how America feels like this, and our black Americans feel like they need reparations, but then blacks own slaves, and it's like, dude, you're talking about two different things. Stop confusing the people.
Right.
But then so this other black conservative came out and was like, yo, no, you're talking about it all wrong. And he wasn't able to talk about it at a court. It was handled in a court, but not in the government system that we have today. It was under a colonial law, which at the time we were under British law.
Right.
So I think people didn't fully understand. And judges weren't lawyers. They were influential members of society. They were stakeholders that were the judges. They were the whatever they want to call them, magistrates. Right. So that's how everything was handled back then. So it wasn't, you didn't go up to and you had they were going by law. No, because the laws were different back then. But that's what it did pave the way for future legislation when America was with the Constitution. And because this is what I learned also yesterday, is how we came to be seen as 3/5 of a person was because of the Johnson Virginia case of indentured slavery, and what it all came down to being a color, and how much of black you were. So if you were anything under 3/5, they saw you as less than a human being.
Yep.
So, and that what considered black people. Even, okay, here's the one, and this is something that I learned too, bro, and it's crazy, right? So I think this is why yes, the 3-5 clause, right? So, because if you break that down, And I've literally, because I've had to think about this because I've seen this. I haven't seen it, but um, I remember doing the genealogy for Sabrina, my oldest daughter, right? And I always ask, like, how did you guys come up to be of what she is? And they were like, well, because my dad is black, my mom is white, so I'm 50-50. But genetically, no. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? So how they broke it down to me, because even though my daughter this fucking blows my mind of how she's considered more black than she is white. And
Yeah.
it still blew my mind. So yeah, even with me, I'm considered, just like she's a little shade under, but I'm considered 67% black, even though it's 50-50. It has something to do with genetics.
Does your white side have black in it, or
No,
is that what you're saying?
no. My mom's side has no black in it. They have some um
Indigenous.
indigenous, right. Um Native American. She
Right.
got Cherokee in her family.
Okay.
But that goes back even before so that's before my grandpa. So that would be the generation, that was his grandparents.
Got you.
But yeah, so I mean, that's what I'm saying, of like when people do their history and they go back and look at it. I know that even with doing, my daughter did 23andMe. Um, and damn, yeah, on her rest in peace, Kingston. On on her son too. Just to see where his nationality came from, and it was wild to see that just on hers, how many, because just look at, she don't got no black in her mom's side of the family. Uh, but to see that what she got from it was like 4 different parts of Africa.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's why for me, I love learning about my history and my ancestors, because I found out we weren't just black people. Willie just wasn't a black kid. He was a black kid with a story. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he only had a third grade education, but there was reasonings for that, because
Right.
that's how the times were.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If you were black, you only got a certain grade level. Just like even with the poor white kids, my grandpa only had 8th grade education. That was as high as he got, 8th grade. But he was a farmer.
Right.
Same thing with my grandma. She went from from 8th grade to nursing school.
And get this. Today you can have a PhD and this, that, and the third, and can't even be able to pay for a condo and a car. Like, just, I want people to think about that for a second.
Right.
And that's not to knock your parents or grandparents, you know what I mean? But it's just interesting how time changes.
No, that definitely is crazy, because everything was so much. I sit there and I look back at, through time, and look at the cost of living, and then I look at what people were making, and then I look at it now, and it's like, damn, we ain't really gone. The rich got richer.
Yep.
And the poor them became deceased. Like, for real, because
literally
there used to be a middle class.
Yep.
It was one, I said, the funniest shit, right? I can't even say it's funny, but we find it funny because we're black. But O Block, I know you know what O Block is.
What?
It's a project in Chicago.
Oh, yes.
So these motherfuckers just up the rent, right? $2,000 a month.
Wow.
To live in a project. And they call that affordable housing.
Huh.
How is that affordable? How is that affordable? That's like anything, though. When you look at these inner cities, they are getting rid of our communities, and it doesn't matter if you're black, doesn't matter if you're Native American, doesn't matter if you're white, doesn't matter.
Asian.
Right? They want your po ass out of their community so they can
Yep.
make it great again. What they see as making it great again is getting rid of the poor.
Yep.
It's criminalizing being poor. That's what the Supreme Court is literally going to decide on. Are they going to criminalize being poor? Are they going to criminalize being homeless? Because this is going to affect a lot of city municipalities in America. This is going to affect a lot of communities in America. Just like the 3 that they did last week is going to affect us because other states are going to try to pull it. They are going to try to silence so that we don't get change. And I hope everybody remembers these words because I hear them every goddamn protest when every time I turn to something, they always like to say by any means necessary. So let's see that by any means necessary. Don't just talk it, walk it. And I'm going to end it on that. And I'm going to let Jontel finish off.
Oh, nice. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you for letting me come on today and chit chat. Definitely always love talking with you, working with you. And for any viewers, any listeners out there, no matter what social media platform you are listening to and on, you can catch my show, The Colonizer's Coffin. We are generally on YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook. And we do have a Facebook page. And also check out any of our other shows on the Leon Block Network. Chaz, appreciate you. It's always love.
Always, brother, always, man. And I'm going to end it on this. Win or fail, freedom or jail, heaven or hell, wish me well. Y'all have a great one.
Don't talk to us about looting. Y'all are the looters. America has looted black people. America looted the Native Americans when... prayed, and I'm like, God, no matter what it is, give me the